Four people in there.
Hey, what's going on? We were just looking at, you were
Seeing who's here. Yeah.
He was looking into the next video.
Yeah, I'm looking over there and then looking at the other video, and I'm like, man, I ain't got to subscribe to that person. All right.
I'm gonna figure out how to do that one of these days. That'll be super funny.
Funny.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, we didn't know if anybody was in here, so he was checking to see if anybody was in here. So I don't want to be like talking to nobody.
They're starting to come in.
Okay, that's good.
There's like 4 or 5. They're coming in now.
So yeah, it's a Haunting Mondays.
Yep.
Again, I apologize for us not doing a movie review yesterday. We just didn't have time to watch the movie, and I felt
She's
like
getting over being
ass.
sick. Yeah.
I mean, I feel much better today. I didn't feel great this morning. Like, I felt kind of pukey and like shit, but then I took some cold medicine and I was all right. So I feel a lot better now. It's a little, I have a little bit of cough, but that's
You'll be better by the end of the week.
Yeah. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But yeah, so we did watch an episode of Haunting last night, and again, I'm trying to go and kind of get all the ones in the first 4 seasons that we haven't covered, as I mentioned before.
I liked this one. I forgot all about it.
I did too, and like this is another one that I was just kind of like, I always kind of like forget about it, but then I was watching it and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this, and I remember these people and shit like that, and this was actually like a really good episode. Like it was like pretty creepy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it had some good special effects in it, and it had some good spiritual angles of helping ghosts go cross over to the other side, kind of like something out of the Frighteners. It was pretty good. Pretty good. They showed the ghost. Ghost was telling his wife and his daughter to shut up, not listen to what the psychic was saying, and he was trying to help him go on to the other side, and he kind of...
Yeah, the ghost was kind of a dick.
Yeah, and they kind of... the story that they use in this is that it was a dude molesting his daughter, and the daughter told the mom, and the mom was like, is it true? You know, and they're back in the 50s, and driving the car, and he's like, well, what are you going to do about it? And she pulls the wheel and kills everybody in the car.
She's like, that's what I'm going to do about it, motherfucker. Yeah. I ain't playing.
Right. Now, I don't know if there's any historical data to back any of this up.
I kind of...
But it had to do with looked like a motorcycle and a car wreck and a motor. It looked like a motorcycle wreck that involved a car out in the front of somebody's front yard, which woke these spirits up.
Yeah, even though the 2 accidents were like unrelated.
Yeah, they were unrelated. Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Right.
Hence why they call it the Awakening, I guess.
The Awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking make all kinds of fucking.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like once that is Anthony Call still alive, like the narrator.
The enclosening. What the fuck is that? That's what
because you could do voiceovers for paranormal shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be right. Yeah, you'd have a great time.
Yeah, especially if I was drinking.
Well, yeah, you just like sit there in the audio booth.
I had to have you...
with some tequila.
Yeah, you'd have to have me fucking... You'd have to get me laughing, though. You'd have to fucking talk me out of it. The enclosening. The Awakening. The Devil's Child. Yeah, fucking right.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
I have to say, there was actually a quite decent horror movie called The Awakening that had Rebecca Hall in it that came out back in, I want to say it was 2011 or 2014 or something like that, but it was really good. It was kind of like an old school ghost story. Didn't love the end, but it was good otherwise. Hugo said, hello guys, Jenny, hope you're feeling better. Yes, I actually do feel much better today. I'm still not 100%, but I feel like about 100 times better than I did yesterday. I felt like complete ass yesterday. And I don't usually get sick. I think it was just because, I don't know, I guess it was just because I was tired and I hadn't had much sleep and, like, you know, all the stress and everything like that of, like, all the driving and all that kind of stuff. So maybe my immune system was suppressed or something, because I normally don't get colds.
I have no idea if any notifications of the fucking live stream sent out.
Because there's nobody here.
There's hardly anybody in here. So
maybe nobody gives a shit today.
They didn't give a shit, or they didn't get the notification. YouTube's kind of spotty with notifications.
Well, the thing about it, though, is that we do it at the same time, like, every Monday. So you'd think that, like, if people were really hardcore, they would know about it.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and get into the case, then.
Yeah. So this was from Season 4, Episode 2, as I mentioned, called The Awakening. I have to say that the people that were in this one, like the husband and wife, they seemed pretty credible. Like, they didn't really seem... And they were both cops.
Yeah.
Or they both worked for the police department. They both worked in law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like maybe... I don't know. Particularly the woman, she seemed very level-headed. So, and even though some of the stuff that happens in this episode is kind of crazy, I don't know. I don't really think she was making it up, you know?
Yeah.
She didn't seem like she was making it up.
No, it seemed sincere to me.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Because some of the people on here, you're just kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. But, like, these two seemed like they were pretty down to earth, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so did the psychic. He didn't seem as out there as like some.
Yeah, he wasn't super flaky like some of the other ones.
Yeah.
He seemed like he seemed like a working class kind of psychic, you know what I mean? Which I thought was kind of nice.
We kind of came across a little bit more like a parapsychologist.
Yeah. Not like kind of
with a spiritual angle.
Yeah, not like some of those like new agey kind of. He didn't come across like that.
Hand me my crystals.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't.
Put salt around some shit. Ghost can walk through a wall, but it can't walk through salt.
That's the rules.
Yeah, rules.
Well, maybe if you believe in the rules, I just made up.
Maybe if you believe in the rules, the ghost has to believe in the rules too.
Maybe so,
but not in my experience. You know, not really. No.
I mean, that would be pretty lame if, like, you get to be a ghost and you're like, awesome, I'm a ghost, and then it's like, what? I can't walk through a salt?
Yeah,
because that's some bullshit, right?
Yeah,
there.
And it's even worse because I can't walk through the salt because this dude thinks I can't walk through the salt.
That's I don't like that.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I don't like that. I'm a ghost. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's kind of the whole fun of being a ghost, I would think.
That's some silly shit. It's kind of like this, kind of like a damn Chinese vampire. And that Chinese vampire can only walk in a straight line and it has to hop and all that.
Yeah,
that's like that. Yeah.
Chinese vampires hop, in case you didn't know. There's even on like a lot of those horror movies from back in the day, like the 60s and 70s, had the hopping vampires and stuff, which is always like very funny to Western audiences. But that's just part of the folklore. I don't know. I don't really know like why, where that came from.
Maybe because their legs were tied together because they were like mummies.
Oh grave. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe something like that.
I think some of them only had like one nostril too. Okay. Where the fuck did I read that?
I don't know.
I could totally be pulling that out of my ass, but I know I read that somewhere. But I think it was like, because I was just like, that's
funny. Specific.
All right. So yeah, so the couple at the center of this are named Marcy and Randy. I think they said Wyckoff, right? I think that was what their last name was. I read it. I wasn't sure if I spelled it right, but I think that's what they said. Because we have all the shows on DVD, but none of them have closed captioning. Yeah, I'm just like, way to say, hey, fuck you, deaf people.
I guess that wasn't like a big thing then.
I guess not, but it's just like, what, they didn't want to do it? Or because I always put, I'm not completely deaf, but I like to put them on anyway just so I can know how to spell people's names and shit, but they don't have them. I don't get it. So the first thing that happens, this happens in Bloomington, Illinois, by the way, and it happens in, I think, like winter of 2003, they said. So the first thing that happens is that, Randy and Marcy are sleeping in their house, and they get woken up by police sirens, like outside, like they see the red and blue lights or whatever. And so Randy goes outside to see what the hell is going on, and it turns out, I mean, he's a detective, so he knows, like, all the cops that are out there, like, on his lawn. And he's like, yeah, there was this guy on a motorcycle, and he lost control of the motorcycle, and he hit the tree, which I guess was, like, right in their front yard, right?
Yeah.
Like, right in their front yard.
Yeah.
So they're taking the guy away in an ambulance. He said, well, he's conscious or something like that, but, we don't know. So we were taking him away in the ambulance. For some
reason, I thought there was a car, too.
No. That was like, it was just a motorcycle. Okay. Yeah, he just, like, lost control and hit a tree.
Okay, they showed a car there. There must have been witnesses stopping to see the accident.
Yeah, there was, like, cops and shit like that, like, all and everybody, like, rubbernecking and whatnot. He said it was weird because they didn't hear the actual accident, which you'd think they would because the tree was, like, right there outside their bedroom window, apparently, but they said they got woke up by the lights, okay. So they took the guy away in an ambulance. So, as I mentioned, both this couple worked in law enforcement. Marcy was actually the manager of the police dispatch, and Randy is a detective and has been for several years. So they both obviously, like, work really, really long hours. Now, a day or two later, they find out that the biker guy that hit the tree actually died, like, from his injuries. And Randy said we were really surprised about that because we got the impression when he was talking to the cops that his injuries weren't that bad. But I guess they were worse than they thought because the guy did actually die. And, so they were a little weirded out that the dude had died on their front lawn, which, yeah, that would be like a little bit freaky. Now, this isn't a case where they moved into this house. They've lived in this house at this point in 2003 for 8 years. And they said they kind of liked it. It's sort of like not out in the middle of nowhere, but it was kind of out in the middle of the country and like, kind of quiet and everything. So the only other things about them, they have a son named Clint who is in the military and he was deployed in the Middle East. And also they mentioned, and this actually does kind of play into the story a little bit later on, is that Marcy's big dream is that she has always wanted to ride a horse in a Western, like in a movie. And I was like,
that's weird.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, that's, again, a very specific
yeah.
dream, but okay, you do you. So yeah. One night, not too long after the motorcycle wreck that killed the guy, they're laying on a couch watching a movie, a Western, as it happens, and the lights start flickering. A lot of flickering lights in this episode. Now, obviously, at first, they don't think anything about it. They just think, oh, the electrical's fucked or whatever. We'll figure it out later. So, Randy actually mostly works the graveyard shift. So, he's usually away at night, as a lot of the men are in these episodes, I notice. So, one night, when Marcy is home by herself, she hears, like, kind of a thumping noise, I guess. It sort of sounds like somebody is in the house, like in the kitchen or something. And so she gets up to go see what the deal is, and the lights in the hall like start flickering again. Now in the kitchen, Marcy checks the back door, which is locked, and it doesn't look like anybody came in, and she looks outside and doesn't see anybody. So she's like, well, she figured it was just her imagination, but she's like, I'm pretty goddamn sure like I heard somebody in the house. And she's not one, and her husband said this about her too. It's like she's really not one to be given to flights of fancy or anything. Just like she's very level-headed, she's very down to earth, and she's not one of these people that just like gets hysterical or like makes stuff up. So she's kind of like, I'm pretty sure I heard somebody in the house, but obviously there's nobody here, so I must have like imagined it. And then later on, one day she's down in the basement, and she said that when she was down there in particular, she started to feel like she was being watched all the time. Like somebody was just standing right by her or was like standing over there looking at her or something like that. And it was starting to wig her out. So this one particular day, the light that was flickering all the time, she replaces the bulb that was in the hallway. And then she kind of goes, she's like, oh, that job is done or whatever. And then like she walks back down the hall and then the light comes on by itself. I will note that she did not say that she saw that. So I don't know if they just did that for the show. You know what I mean? Because she didn't turn around and go, what the fuck? It was just kind of like they just made it come on by itself. So apparently Marcy is really stressed out, because of work. She's been working long hours. Like I said, she works in police dispatch, which is probably like a pretty stressful job too. And also because, as I mentioned, their son Clint has been deployed to the Middle East, and they haven't actually heard from him for a couple of weeks. So they're worried that, they don't know where he's at. They have because he hasn't called them. So Randy decides he's going to try and cheer her up. He's like, because he sees in the newspaper, it's like, hey, they happen to be filming a Western like around here, and they need extras, so why don't we go down there and we'll be extras, because that's what you've always wanted to do. So, he's trying to, like, cheer her up, which I thought was kind of nice. So, then, at another point in time, Marcy is in the kitchen, and she turns and sees that the back door is open. And she's pretty sure that she did not leave it open, so, she didn't see it open by itself or anything like that. And then the lights start flickering again, like, over the table. And then she turns around and sees a guy standing in the doorway. Like, she went over and closed the back door, and then she kind of, like, turned around and was walking over by the dining room table, and then, like, the light over the dining room table was flashing, and then she turned around, and there was a dude, like, standing, and she fucking screamed. The actress in this, she was a great screamer, I thought. Yeah. I mean, she screamed for Randy, like, that was the husband's name, and, man, she let it rip. And I was just like, nice. I like that. So she screams for him because he's home. And he runs out with his gun, obviously, because like I said, he's a cop. But the guy's disappeared. Now, she's like, there was a dude who was standing right fucking there. So he checks like all around, the yard and everything like that. But obviously he can't find anybody. And he says to her, he's like, well, what did he look like? She's like, well, I don't know. He was only there for a second. She said he was tall. He's like, looked like an older guy. She said, he remember he was wearing jeans, maybe like a white t-shirt. And Randy was like, he's like, well, I wanted to believe her, but I wasn't really sure like where the dude could have gone to, like in such a short time. And he says, and I know, he's like, but I knew that she wasn't just like, you know, nuts or whatever, because it's like she's a very rational person and she wasn't really prone to imagining things. He's like, but I didn't really know what to do because I didn't see the guy and I didn't see how he could have gotten away so quickly.
Felt the same way that night you woke me up and said the doorbell was ringing.
See, they never believed me.
No, I kind of thought, I did believe you. Remember, I went out and checked it. But I didn't hear it.
Well, here's the... And I told you this before, because I was awake.
Yeah.
And I heard it. Yeah. And it was like 3:30, 4 in the morning.
Yeah. And
I laid there, and I was like, okay, I'm wide awake, and I'm pretty sure I just heard the doorbell.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm willing to... I'm like, I know I heard it, but I was like, I'm willing to think maybe it was a dream. I know I wasn't dreaming, because I know I was wide awake. But then I was laying there just like debating this with myself, and then it rang again.
Yeah.
That's when I woke you up, because I said, okay, I for sure did not dream that, because I'm laying here wide awake.
You were upset. I had to go check that shit
Well,
out.
see, I didn't think it was a ghost or nothing. I thought like some weirdo is ringing our doorbell, because it's never good if somebody rings your doorbell at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning, is it?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I grabbed a pistol, went up there, and fucking started walking around in the dark and trying to get...
Because there was glass panes in the door at our old house.
Trying to look through to get a certain angle to see if there was anybody.
Yeah, we're like looking like that. Like,
wasn't anybody there.
I don't know who the fuck that was.
It was spooky.
It was very spooky. But like I said, if it hadn't rung again, I probably wouldn't have woken you up, because I would have just written it off. I know I heard it,
right?
But I would have just written it off as like, well, maybe it was a dream. But then it rang again, and I was like, okay, that for sure did not imagine that. And that's when I woke you up. So it rang 2 times.
Weird.
It rang 2 times. And there was no...
I'm sure it did. Well, the garage door opened.
Yeah.
On another time.
Yeah. It was pretty weird.
Yeah. TV kept turning on.
Yeah.
Sometimes in our room.
Yeah.
That was around that time.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy.
And then it pulled down the fucking trim off the top of the damn kitchen cabinets.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what it was. That was the poltergeist.
Ringing the fucking doorbell in the middle of the night. What an asshole.
Yeah. Well, it didn't pull the chain off the door, though.
That's true.
Yeah. Go, pow! You hear the chain going? Yeah.
Mark M. said, I went to college in Bloomington. Okay. Oh, well, so you know this town, then. That's where this story takes place. Bloomington, Illinois. Isn't there a Bloomington in Indiana also? Or am I totally crazy? I mean, I'm sure there's Bloomingtons in lots of states. It's kind of one of those... It's like a town like Springfield, where every state has one. But yeah. So later, like a couple months later, in spring of 2003, Randy gets promoted to sergeant. So he's actually gone much longer hours. So now Marcy is home alone, like a lot more, you know, just when she's starting to get like fucking wigged out about maybe there's some paranormal shit going on. So she actually starts staying at work later to avoid being home alone, like for as long as possible. You know what I mean? Now, one of her co-workers, I want to kind of get into this in a little bit. One of her co-workers actually used to live in her house, like didn't live with her, but lived there before they lived there. You know what I mean? And she was like, I kind of wanted to ask her if any weird shit happened in the house, like when she lived there, but she's like, I wasn't really sure. She's like, I didn't want her to think I was nuts, and I didn't, you know, she's like, there really wasn't any right way to approach it. Like, hey, by the way, is that house haunted? You know what I mean? She's like, I didn't really know how to, because I got the impression that she felt really silly, like bringing it up to anybody, because she thought everybody would think she was crazy. She thought she was crazy. You know what I mean? Because like I said, she seemed like a really rational person, and she's like, I thought I was losing my mind. But I guess a lot of people say that. So, their son, Clint, finally calls. And Marcy is, like, really, really relieved. Like, he can only talk for a few minutes and everything, but she, you know, they hadn't heard from her for, like, 2 or 3 weeks, and they were, like, wondering where the fuck he was, and they were worried about him. But he calls, and they're like, okay, so that's all good. Now, after she hangs up the phone with her son, she said that she felt like, she said it felt like air, like, rushing at her, like, from behind her. Like, it kind of blew her hair and, like, sort of pushed her like that. And then she's like, at this point, she's pretty well determined that, yeah, the shit is haunted, right? So she just pretty much yells at the ghost to, like, get the fuck out of the house. You know, this is my house. You don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. And then they show her later on in the basement doing laundry, because somebody always has to do laundry in every single episode of a haunting, I've determined. I'm going to have to do a poll of that. I feel like every single episode of haunting has a scene of somebody doing laundry at some point. And then when she's down in the basement, she starts seeing lights flickering, like, from the upstairs hallway. The light that flickered the most, because, like, the one that would sometimes flickered was, like, the sort of chandelier thing that was, like, over the kitchen table. But the one that flickered the most was there was, like, a hall light that was right by the door that led to the basement, I guess. So she was down in the basement, and then she looked up and saw the light in the hallway, like, flickering outside it. So she kind of, like, goes up, and the light's flicking off and on, and it's kind of getting dark and everything. And then she's walking up the stairs, and then apparently a hand reaches out from, like, between the stairs and, like, grabs her leg, like, grabs her ankle. I don't know if she saw the hand or if she just felt it.
Yeah, or thought that it would happen.
Or thought that it happened. I'm not really sure. I didn't get the impression that she actually saw the hand. They show it, obviously, like, on the show. But she just said she felt like something. Yeah. Like she felt a hand around her ankle.
Yeah. When me and Wes were walking around inside Mammoth Mountain in that ski resort, every time we walked up the stairs together, we would start running because it felt like there was something behind us chasing us, but we'd look back, there'd be nothing there. Just, yeah, kids are, but yeah, definitely a poltergeist shit going on in there.
Because you said you kept thinking you'd turn around and it'd be like a skeleton.
Yeah, I wanted to turn around, but I was afraid to, but I would anyway. There was nothing there. But Wes would be running from it too, like there was something back there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You felt some kind of pressure back there, some kind of presence.
That's creepy.
Chasing you up the stairs. But no sounds, just totally silent. You know? Felt like something was watching you, coming up the stairs with you. It's weird. So maybe they're just trying to say, she's going up the stairs and she was always had a constant fear that something was going to grab her.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she did kind of say that she felt a hand
Okay.
grabbing her ankle. But I don't know if she actually saw a physical hand reaching out. But she said she felt like that. So she's understandably like pretty fucking wigged out by this. So she calls Randy and she's like basically like something fucking touched me, okay, and I don't like it. And he doesn't really know what to do. He's like, well, I can come home, but he's like a lot of the dudes on a haunting where he's just like, you know, like I said, you can't. It's a ghost, you can't punch it. So they're like, well, I'm out of ideas. You know what I mean? He's like, even if I come home, like, there's nothing I can do. It's like, you know, it's a ghost, presumably. So I can't do anything about it, and I don't really know, like, what she wants me to do about it. So while Marcy is waiting for Randy to come home, she basically goes in there and tapes the basement door shut, like, to keep the fucking ghost from busting out of there. Which, like I said, I can't really say I blame her, to be honest with you. So Randy comes home and he takes all the tape off the basement door and goes down in there and looks around, and doesn't see anything. They kind of set it up like he's gonna see something, like, cause it kind of went on a long time and it was kind of creepy and they kind of like shot from behind various things, like something was watching him, but he didn't say he saw anything. He's like, I just went down there and like nothing happened. And then she tells him, she's like, look, every time I'm in this house by myself, she's like, I feel like someone is standing right in front of me, like, all the time.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. And, again, like, he didn't really know what to do about it, you know?
Yeah, he was like, come on, woman.
Right.
What do you, give me something to work with.
Well, that's what I mean.
I believe you, but give me something to work with.
And I kind of feel like... Well, the thing about it, too, is that I think about this a lot, like, when we're watching the thing, because I get it. I get that the dudes are, like, they feel helpless, and they feel like, you know, because it's like, oh, you know, I can't protect my family or whatever, because it's a ghost, you can't punch it, like I said.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I think that they don't really, they, you know, the women and the kids, like, yes, they want the problem solved, obviously, but they don't necessarily want you to punch the ghost or anything like that. They just want somebody to believe them and like their feelings to be validated and you to like work with them to like come to a solution. They don't need you to fix it. You know what I mean? A lot of times they just want you to make them feel better about it.
Yeah, my friend Ed Dunham, who was in one of these, the Deltona Ghost, what was it called? Haunting in Deltona?
A Haunting in Florida, I think it was just called, yeah.
Yeah, I know him. He's an ex-Army Ranger. He tried to kill the damn ghosts. Says you can't do anything with it. You can't fucking punch it. You can't shoot it. It's just, it's there no matter what. He said he saw the guy.
Yeah.
Saw the guy sitting on the bed fucking smoking, looking at him. He said he was wet, like covered in rain, like he'd been outside when it's raining. Said he saw him once. His kids felt its presence and stuff. Much stuff happened. It's a good episode also.
I was considering like revisiting that one.
Yeah.
Because I know we did a show about it like a long time ago.
Yeah, maybe we ought to update that one.
But yeah, because when I was looking at the episode list, but I kind of want to do the ones we haven't done yet. Yeah. And then maybe, I know we redid Summer Wind and we've redone some that we did before. But that was one that I kind of wanted to redo because you know that guy and and that was actually like a pretty decent, and that's not far from here, like that house. And
I've been in front of that house.
Yeah, and you've driven by it before.
Yeah, I stopped out there and looked to see if I could pick up any kind of vibe from it, like over at Mammoth, and I couldn't. Didn't feel anything. Just felt normal.
Yeah, I mean that house.
Maybe whatever it is, it's gone. I don't know.
That house is only about 20 miles from where I grew up, actually.
And it's not the one they show in the episode.
But you said it was on the same street.
It's on the same street. Yeah. They show the corner house because it's real nice. The one he was in was not on the corner. It's not quite that nice.
Yeah, and again,
he was just renting it. It wasn't his house.
Right. That's kind of something I'm always interested in is like how far away they...
It was about 5 houses down, the one that they showed. It was a nice neighborhood. It's an older neighborhood.
I haven't been to Deltona in a while.
Yeah. But no, he would... the parapsychologists and some local spiritualists got involved. I really didn't agree with that too much. I didn't think the right people were on it, but that's all he had access to, like a ghost hunting club, basically.
Right.
Although the main woman did give him I think, pretty good advice, like, tone the emotions down. You can't physically fight this thing. You might just be feeding it, feeding it a bunch of energy, or encouraging it, to do more. It could be.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what a lot of parapsychologists and, ghost hunting type people will say is that probably sometimes, like, the best thing you can do is just pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
Because if you're scared of it or if you're angry or something like that, then it loves that shit.
He said he could hear it at night walking across the rafters up in the ceiling with heavy boots, boonk, 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 going from one rafter to the next. And then he said he'd hear it on the roof, walking around on the roof. He ran out and yelled at it up on the roof. I think he said he saw it. It was just a black form.
Yeah, they showed that in the episode that he saw like a figure up on the roof. Yeah. That's funny because, like I said, my grandfather's old house, which is not there anymore, it was in South Daytona. My mom and all my sisters said that they heard somebody boots walking around on the roof all the time when they were kids.
Ed said he had bad dreams in there and all kind, bad dreams too.
Interesting.
I think when they moved in there, I think there's a bunch of eaten food just sitting on plates, just left in like somebody ran away from eating. Like
that's right. Yeah, they showed that in the episode too. Yeah. That was like really weird.
He said it was strange. A lot of furniture was left behind and food was left behind, like somebody just ran.
Yeah. See, that's I wouldn't be as weirded out by furniture, but if somebody just like ran it like a half-eaten plate of food, that's pretty weird.
Just sitting there.
That's
had been there for a long time. And the place wasn't in squalor. It's just
like somebody just like ran
left and then come back.
And then weird that like nobody, especially if they were gonna rent it out, like that nobody like the the management company didn't come and like clean it up or anything.
If I remember correctly,
that seems very weird.
Ed did that for a living, and that was part of the deal is to go in there and clean it up, and I think he'd get a discount on the
I gotcha.
on the thing if I remember correctly. Okay. So he was also cleaning it up and getting it ready for himself, and then they would subtract that from first month's rent.
Because they wouldn't have to hire somebody.
They wouldn't have to hire somebody. Yeah, because he was a contractor.
Right, I got you. So she basically tells...
that's how he found the place.
Okay,
if I remember correctly.
That makes sense. So he got a deal on it.
Yeah.
because it was kind of left a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, they hired him to clean the place up, and then he realized he wanted to rent it. And they subtracted that from his bill.
I think they did mention that on the episode, actually. Maybe we should revisit that one, because I actually do really like that episode. And like I said, you know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells Randy that, basically every time she's in the house, she's like, I feel like someone's standing, like, right in my face, like, pretty much, like, all the time, and it's freaking me out. So Marcy, not really knowing what else to do, she finally decides she's going to ask the coworker, because remember the coworker that lived in her house, like, a long time ago? She's going to ask the coworker about the house. And the coworker is super helpful, and that's sarcasm if you didn't detect that. Basically, she just looks at her, and she's like, because Marcy's like, you ever have anything weird happen at that house? You know, and she's like, weird, like, what do you mean weird? She's like, I don't know, just, lights going on and off by themselves, or like weird noises or something like that. And the woman legit like I don't know if she did this in real life, but she legit like looks at Marcy and is like, are you nuts? Like that. And I was like, that's nice. Like, way to be supportive there, coworker. She was like super bitchy. So Marcy was like, well, okay, that was just, never mind. Just forget I said anything, So I was just like, I don't know why that scene made me laugh so much. Just like the way the woman was like, are you nuts? She wasn't even interested. Like, she's like, oh, is the house haunted? Wow, no, nothing happened when I was there. It's like, I wouldn't be an asshole like that, but So, one night, not too long after this, both of them are sleeping, and they get woke up, or at least Marcy gets woke up by a blue kind of light thing. It looked like a blue glow mist. She said it was a blue mist, right?
Yeah.
That's what she called it.
Kind of like a Mammoth Mountain.
Which, that reminded me of, like, your thing. Because that's what you called it, too.
Yeah.
Like a blue mist.
They didn't show it the way it actually looked for us, but maybe that's the way it looked for them.
Yeah, the way they showed it, it kind of looked like in Poltergeist. You know what I mean? Like, wasn't there that scene in Poltergeist where that thing like started materializing like at the end of their bed? It kind of looked like that, like a blue glowy thing.
Yeah,
with,
they made it look like it had places of density in it. And
right,
stuff,
right.
But ours wasn't like that. It was just a solid field, like a field of energy, or like when you look across a foggy, like a foggy field or something. It just looks like a solid block of haze, so it was like that, but you really couldn't put your hand on it or anything, and it didn't look like smoke. It's the same color as smoke particles, like smoke when cigarette smoke gets really dissipated. It's like that, but you could tell the particles weren't moving. It. We weren't sure if it was just like some kind of energy field, or if you were or if it was something that was affecting your eye to make you see it. It was weird. Me and Red sat there trying to analyze that shit for fucking hours. How is it doing that? What are we actually seeing? That kind of stuff. Is it there, or are we just seeing it? Is it making us see it? That kind of. Is it really there? We don't know. You put your hand through it, you don't really disturb it. Walk in and it goes away. It vanishes. Almost like a mirage. But it was real faint. But you can see it. Blue haze kind of thing.
Speaking of haze, I was like, shit, man, driving to work this morning, I was like, it was fucking thick as pea soup out there.
Yeah.
I could barely fucking see. I was like driving down the street, it's like 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like driving down the street, I was like, oh my god, it's like Hound of the fucking Baskervilles out here. Yeah. I couldn't see anything. It was horrible. At least there's not much traffic, like, until I get out of all of that. But yeah, so she said that she woke up and she saw like a blue mist at the end of the bed, and she said it was right in front of her face. And she kind of like freezes up, like she sort of like reaches for it, but then it disappears, and then she wakes Randy up. I don't know why she didn't wake him up when it was still there, but I guess she was like too freaked out or whatever. But by the time she wakes him up, it's gone. So now she's basically like, okay, well, now I don't feel safe anywhere, because this is like the first time she'd seen any kind of like manifestation in the bedroom, and it was the first time she'd seen like a kind of manifestation when Randy was right there. Like, he was sleeping, but I mean, it happened when he was in the house before, because she did see that apparition and Randy was in the house. He just was in the other room, you know what I mean? Yeah. But she said, so now it's kind of the thing where it's like, I don't feel safe anywhere. Like, I don't feel safe in the house anywhere, and I don't feel safe now when Randy is home, because obviously it's going to do shit like when he's right there. So she's like, well, maybe we just need to call somebody. And she basically said, she said something funny and I wrote it down. She said, I wasn't looking for a support group. I just wanted to know that this happened to someone else. Right. Like, because she wanted some validation, I guess, because she thought she was losing it, you know. So she's still kind of reluctant to call investigators, though, because I think she was still, like I said, I think she was really worried that people would think she was crazy or that, you know, they would laugh at her or something like that. She's like, I didn't really want to, like, have people come to my house or whatever. Now, one night, she actually wakes up and sees the guy that she saw by the back door earlier, like the ghost guy, like in the white t-shirt or whatever. And she sees him in the hall outside the bedroom with two women. Like, he looks like he's pushing the women, like, down into the basement. And she said that he actually turned and looked right at her, like, before he pushed the two women into the basement. So at this point, she, like, wakes Randy up. Randy gets the gun and goes down to the basement again. And, you know, the lights flicker and stuff like that. And the ghost kind of pops up behind him, but he didn't say he saw that. So they kind of set it up like, ooh, he's going to see something, but he didn't. You know what I mean? He was down there a long time, but they kept going, like, she putting the ghost in the background, but he didn't see it. So yeah, again, like, he's trying to be supportive, but he's like, look, I really don't see anything. He doesn't feel anything. And, you know, he doesn't think she's going crazy, but he just doesn't know what to do, you know.
Mark says that it seems to be a consistent report that you have a feeling of presence in a haunted house.
Yeah.
I actually don't really consider it a feeling of presence. I felt it. It feels more like something's watching you and it's scrutinizing you. Not so much just a presence. It's like something's looking directly at you.
Yeah, so not just that somebody's hanging out, but somebody's actually like...
It's like they're looking at you and there's emotion behind it. That it hates you or it doesn't like you, or, you know, there is like an emotion kind of associated with it looking at you. Although the emotion does kind of change. It's not always like that. It might even be playful sometimes. Just...
Yeah, I think I would rather have a nice ghost. That would be nice.
It seemed to just mirror whatever your emotion was. If you got scared, it would just become more frightening. If you got lighthearted about it, it would start play. But that's poltergeist. That's not ghost. Poltergeist is RSPK, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, of the subconscious mind doing it. Artificial ghost. I believe there may be ghosts. I've never seen one, but I've been in a bad house, which that might be a ghost. But nothing ever moved. Couldn't prove it. Just a feeling of being watched. Bad dreams. Not just me, everybody. Everybody that went in the house. Very uncomfortable. But nothing ever happened.
Yeah. So, okay, so where was I? Okay, so, basically, he's like, again, he still hasn't seen anything, and he doesn't really know what to do. He's like, well, why don't you go, we'll go and work on that movie. Like, we'll go be extras in the movie just to get out of the house, like, as much as possible, because she doesn't really like to be in there by herself anymore. Now, one night, it so happens that Marcy is at work and Randy is at home for a change. And he actually experiences something finally. Now, in the reenactment, they actually showed he's in the fridge fucking around. And you know, because they do this in, like, horror movies. It's almost as ubiquitous as that mirror thing. Like, oh, I'm going to wash my face. Oh, shit, something in the mirror. Yeah. This is kind of like, oh, I'm getting something out of the refrigerator, and then you close the refrigerator door, and then there's a ghost, like, right there. So that's what they did. So he's getting a beer or whatever out of the fridge, and then he closes the fridge door, and then the ghost is there, and it's, like, screaming, like, bah! Like, right at his face. Now, he didn't say he saw it, though, but he said he heard it. Yeah. He said it was really loud, and it was right on top of me, like, I guess a dude screaming. And it was, like, on one side, and then it was, like, on the other side.
That would fucking make my hair stand up.
Yeah, I would shit my pants if that happened, legitimately. I'm, like, not even ashamed to say that. Like, if you're just, like, fucking around getting some out of the refrigerator, and all of a sudden, like, there's some dude right there, like, screaming in your ear. Oh, my God.
I'd be jumping out of my skin.
That would be fucking horrifying. Well, shit, I jump at sounds when I know what it is. You know what I mean? Like, much less it being something from the fucking other side of the veil or whatever. But yeah, so they showed it, like, on the show, they showed the dude, like, right there, like, bah! Like, screaming like that. But he didn't see it, I don't think. He just, like, heard it. But he said it was really, really loud. So he's like, and finally, he realized that oh, this is what Marcy is talking about. Holy shit, this is fucking terrifying. So he's like, no wonder she's so fucked up. Like, if this is what she's been going through for the last few months or whatever. So, so then, now that they're, like, he tells her, he's like, oh my god, now I know what you're talking about. This is awful. And then so now they're kind of, like, on the same page. So then they start wondering, well, maybe this has something to do with that guy that died on our front lawn. Like, maybe he's the one haunting it. Because, like I said, they lived in this house for, like, 8 years before any of this shit started happening. And presumably they hadn't had any trouble prior to that. So they said, well, maybe, maybe it's the guy that was on the motorcycle that died. Or, maybe it's something. So they're like, maybe it had something to do with that. So they actually discussed moving. But they said they weren't really ready to. They had been talking about moving kind of out to a farm or something like that, like when they retired, but they weren't like retirement age yet. And he's like, I don't really want to retire yet. And it's like, so we don't really want to be chased out of our house or whatever. So what they try to do is just try to spend as much time as possible, like out of the house. Like I said, they're being extras. They both end up being extras in the movie or whatever. Now, it so happens that while they're on the set, with their little cowboy hats and whatnot, the director's brother, who is also, like, helping out on the movie, happens to be a paranormal investigator. Who'd have thought it? I was like, wow, what a coincidence that is. And his name is Rob Conover, I think is what they said. I'm not sure if I spelled it right in my notes, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they said. So he seems like reluctant to tell me. He's like, I'm a paranormal investigator, that kind of thing. But Marcy's like, well, our fucking house is haunted, so you want to hear about that? And like, so she tells him all about the apparition. And Rob, just from what she says, seems very concerned about it, because they're like, well, this apparition seems that, like, it's trying to deliberately scare you. And he's like, and that's usually bad news. So, he's like, basically what you need to do is control your fear, because the ghosts feed off the fear of them. And it's like, and it seems like that's what this one is doing. So, you just have to, like, try to not show any fear around it. Like, easier said than done, I guess. So Marcy is stuck home alone one night, and she starts, like, sensing the ghost's presence. Now, Rob had told her to, if you get really scared in the house, get your Bible or whatever and start reading the 23rd Psalm. So she starts doing that, and then the kitchen sink, the faucet, like, turns on by itself. And Marcy is like, fuck this shit, pretty much, and calls Rob. And it's like, get over here. I'm done dealing with this, okay? So, so he comes there, even though it's like the middle of a storm or something like that, because I think she said something about, oh, thanks for coming out, even though the weather's so shitty or whatever. So he starts walking around the house, and, you can tell he has a very, very concerned look on his face, like, oh shit, there's some bad mojo in here. So he said he felt a strong spirit energy, and he said, he's hiding from me. That's what he said, I remember. So there's more lights flickering, and then all the power goes out. Now, I will note that there was a bad storm outside, so that might not have been some ghosty shit. That might have just been, like, power going out because it was a storm or whatever. And then there's kind of like, they're looking down the hall, and then, like, that blue light mist kind of situation, like, sort of starts coalescing down there, like, at the end of the hall. So Rob and Marcy kind of, like, light the lamp or candles or whatever, and they kind of start going down the hall or looking down there. Now, Rob sees the ghost, he says, and asks who he is. Now, Marcy says that she saw the blue light, and she sees, like, the guy's outline. She didn't see him, like, real clearly. Because, like I said, she saw the apparition before. At least she said she did. So Rob said he sees a couple of women ghosts, too. Because remember I said that Marcy saw the guy and, like, two women. Like, and he was pushing them down to the basement. And he said that he saw the two women ghosts, and they looked all fucked up. Like, they were all bloody and whatnot. And he said, because he was like, oh, I usually see them like the way they looked when they died. I was like, okay, that's horrifying. Now, they figure out that the man ghost is controlling the female ghost. Because you can't just have a ghost in a house. You always have to have one ghost that's, like, corralling, like, all the other ghosts and being, like, an asshole about it. So that's what you have in this situation, too. Now, Rob actually senses something because, remember, there was like the motorcycle accident, but Rob senses something that happened actually 60 years ago, he says. But it was about 60 years ago. He said, and Tom was talking about this earlier, but the ghost man was apparently, well, he wasn't a ghost then, obviously, when he was alive. The ghost man was apparently molesting his daughter. And when the mom found out about it, they're all in the car together. And she's like, is it true? And he's like, you know what I mean? Kind of like that. And she was like, all right, motherfucker. And she just like runs.
What are you going to do about it?
Right. And she's like, I'll show you what I'm going to do about it, mother. I'm going to kill all of us. You know what I mean? And I was like I said, she ain't playing. So, so she just like crashed the fucking car and killed them all. And apparently this car crash happened on the land where the house stands, like before the house, you know, was there, obviously. So, because he says something to Marcy, he's like, well, there's something about a car crash. And she's like, no, it was a motorcycle crash. You know, it just happened a few months ago. And he's like, no, this happened like a really, really long time ago. So they didn't really explicitly say that maybe the guy dying in the motorcycle crash, like recently, maybe awakened the other shit.
The awakening.
Yeah, I think that's why they called it that. Yeah. Because like I said, they'd lived in this house for a long time and they'd never had like any ghosts before, so maybe this just kind of like stirred it up. I don't really know. I think that's kind of what they were implying. So Rob's like, I don't know, I laughed at the way he phrased this, I guess, but he's like, Rob's gonna talk to the ghosts. I'm gonna talk to these motherfuckers. Yeah. I'm gonna talk to the ghosts.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
go over here and talk to these ghosts for a second. But that's why I laughed, because that's kind of like what his tone sounded like. Well, I'm gonna go talk to these people.
Yeah. But let me talk to you. No, you got to leave. No, you can't stay. You must leave.
I mean, so he's gonna talk to them about going into the lake, because you know that's what you gotta do, man. You can't like hang out. Now, he says that the man ghost apparently didn't want to go into the lake, well, because he was afraid he was going to go to hell, or he was going to get punished for being a fucknut when he was alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, you know,
that little daughter.
well, yeah. I mean, probably that's a legitimate fear, I guess. But hey, should have thought of that before he did it. That's all I gotta say. That's what I mean. So
keep the diddlers to yourself.
Yeah. Seriously.
That's your daughter, man. Come on.
Even if it wasn't your daughter, just like keep your fucking filthy ass paws to
worse.
yourself.
It makes it a lot worse.
Well, I know it makes it a lot worse, but I'm just saying, it's like just keep your filthy ass paws to yourself. I don't care who it is. But so he's afraid of going to hell. So we actually see kind of like a flashback of, I don't know if like Rob really saw this or not, but it's like we see like a flashback of the wife and daughter, like, and they're all bloody and fucked up and everything, and they're kind of waking up in the fucked up car. And they're like, oh, we're dead, I guess. And they're like, woo, we got away from our horrible husband/dad. And they start getting out of the car because there's like, woo, the swirly light, you know what I mean? So they're going to go into the light. And then the dad, like, tries to grab the mom, like, as she's getting out of the car, like, no, you're not going anywhere, motherfucker, like that kind of thing. And I'm just like, geez, even in death, he's like, fucking won't even let her go to the light. Just piss off. So, but basically she just gets out and she's just like, bye, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So they just like leave the scumbag hubby in the car. So then they just leave his ass there. So they just go into the light. So the man spirit, who's now back in the house, because Rob is still talking to those, he's talking to the ghosts. The man spirit then realizes now he's alone because the wife and the daughter finally were like, you know, fuck off. And they just like went off into the lake because I guess they were scared to before. He was keeping them there somehow. So he was apparently asking Rob, the psychic guy, if he was going to hell and if it's going to hurt and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah, dude said some crazy shit.
And Rob's like, I don't know. I guess you'll find out.
That's not exactly what he said.
I don't remember exactly what he said.
He said some crazy shit that I tried to analyze. He goes, I don't know. And he goes, I don't know if you'll be punished. And he goes, then he says, but God, what he says, the devil's punishment is much worse than God's judgment.
Oh, yeah. Is that what he said?
Yeah. And I went, wait
I should have written that down because we were discussing that.
Yeah. The devil's punishment is much worse than God's judgment. And I'm like, wait a minute. God's judgment against you would be that you'd be punished by the devil. It would be the same thing.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, they didn't really think that through.
Yeah, it didn't really make much sense.
I'd been like, "Yeah, you're going to hell, motherfucker." Or like I said, should have thought of that before you did all that fucked up shit while you were alive.
Is that you're already being punished by the devil? which I didn't really see that because he said he was in a self-made purgatory. So he's not being punished by the devil. He's in purgatory. So, but what he meant to say is something like, you're already being punished by the devil. What do you have to lose by getting judgment? Because you might, get a lesser sentence, is what I believe he meant. That's not what he said. And that doesn't... Yeah.
The theology doesn't really.
The theology, track. That doesn't line up with fucking Bible doctrine.
It doesn't really. No. But like I said, they weren't really thinking about it. They're just pulling stuff out their ass. It's ghost stuff. They don't know.
Yeah, according to New Testament and Old Testament stuff, I don't think there's a purgatory. The closest thing to that would be maybe something from the Old Testament called Sheol, or it just means the grave. But death, There was no real afterlife guaranteed in the Old Testament. You just died. Only certain people went to heaven. Guys like Moses and shit. Because heaven was...
Special motherfuckers.
Heaven was made for angels. It wasn't made for human souls. And if you look in the New Testament with Revelations and end times prophecy, the dead, when Jesus comes back, the dead rise from Sheol. They rise from the grave and come back to life. Eventually they're given new bodies and they live in a new Jerusalem on earth, which is kind of like the second Eden, a restoration of Eden. There isn't anything really about going to heaven. Not in the prophecy, end time prophecies. Although other Christians, I think, mention it. Some people being translated to heaven. I don't really think heaven was the main concept in Christianity. Christianity came from many competing versions of Christianity. None of them really agreed. They ended up being harmonized and put into the New Testament by whatever faction won over time. But I'd be interested to say maybe somebody could pull that up. I don't think eternal reward is heaven. Maybe that's something from the Pauline material. But Pauline material says all kinds of shit. A lot of the Pauline material is fake. Okay, that's all I'm saying about it.
I was going to say, I forgot. Okay. Oh, well. I'm sure it wasn't.
It's just funny. A lot of this is tradition.
Yeah.
A lot of this is tradition. It's not really scriptural.
But yeah. So they get the man ghost, the dickhead diddling man ghost, to fuck off and go to his wherever he went to get punished forever or whatever. And as soon as he fucks off, all the power comes back on. And they said they noticed that, I'm presuming they mean the basement door, because I guess that's where, the whole basement thing was going on. That's where the energy was coming from or whatever. They said once the man ghost kind of like once he kind of like disappeared, they said one side of the door was like really, really hot, and then the other side was like cold, like normal. You know what I mean? That's what Marcy said anyway. So then afterward, they jump ahead, and, their son, Clint, comes home for, I'm presuming, on leave, and they introduce him to Rob the Psychic, who got the ghosts out their house, and apparently everything's okay now. The Wyckoffs actually stayed in the house. I don't know if they're still in there now, or if they're even still alive, because this was a while back, but they weren't that old, to be honest. But they stayed there and had no more activity, and at the very end of the show, it said... they are still investigating the deaths on their property, which to me means they didn't find anything about that whole... because that seems like something that... because when did he say... okay, 50s. So... yeah, it would have been the 50s, because it happened it took place in 2003, and he said it was 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So that it happened.
50.
So they had newspapers then, like you wouldn't, something like that would have been big news. I would imagine.
There would have been local records of that, probably.
Right. So the fact that they just kind of said that, they're still trying to find... I'm like, well, if there was information to find, you would have found it, like, immediately.
They would have been in microfiche, probably, by that time. Definitely.
Yeah.
Remember microfiche?
Mm-hmm.
From another era, people. From another era.
I know. I wonder if, like, any younger people in there are going, what the fuck is that?
Microfiche is they take photographs of old newspapers and take a photograph of the whole thing, a whole page, and shrink it down to damn near microscopic level and put it on a slide. And then they would take that and file that in a library. So you could look up any day and any date of newspapers local in your area at the library, and it'd just come on a little slide. You put that in the microfiche film, and you could like move it around.
Thing, yeah.
So that way you could have like a whole month of newspapers on a single microfiche.
Yeah, like on a little
bitty slide. And there were even like guides to it because there were coordinates down and over. There was numbers to show you what, and to land on a page you were looking for, if it was an important page of where certain things were. You know what I mean? Like events. But basic shit, you had to read through it. It would take forever. There was no Google search.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Well, sometimes you see that like in older movies, like them looking through like the microfiche and stuff. I remember like because our library where I grew up, I used to go to the Ormond Library, and they had like you'd come in the front like right by the circulation desk, and then like right by that they had like all these little doors because they're like little closets, sorta, and it was just like this little dark cubby that you could close in there that had like a long thing and it had all the microfiche machines, so you could go in there in the dark and like scroll through the shit. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Microfiche porn.
Because you know that's probably what
you know that's out there. But anyway, it was funny. They probably in certain rich areas or wealthier areas have probably put all that microfiche stuff. They probably digitized it all.
I would imagine.
Which that'd make it so much easier because then you can just search engine it.
They've been because I do a lot of research for my true crime stuff and everything, and they have been slowly digitizing like old newspapers. But it's kind of hit or miss.
AI should be able to see it.
But I mean, they're doing a good job though, because I can find like some really old ass newspapers, and it's like you can go in there and it has like the whole page and everything, and it even it'll even do like it'll. I can't even think of like the word that I'm trying to think of.
See if you can,
like it can tell what it says and it like kind of types it over here.
It reads it and it knows what it says.
Yeah,
and then it can put that into a digital format that you can search through like a Google search. That'd be great when it comes to things like land deed records and shit like that, and all the fucking civil records of how property has changed hands. You could probably do a lot of cool investigation with that.
Yeah,
find out who owned what piece of property at what time, and how many pieces of property they owned, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of paper records have been lost in various fires and floods and shit like that, but they do seem to be trying to like digitize everything. They
really cool is you take damn handwritten letters that have survived for over hundreds of years and let AI read all that and organize all the surviving personal letters. That way you could look through those for any references for certain things that you may be looking for, names and shit. That would be really cool.
Yeah. Well, doesn't like
you'd be able to check history and stuff like that.
Well, who's that like that genealogy website like ancestry.com or whatever? I feel like they do a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like they have like old correspondence and stuff like that. They have a lot of that stuff digitized. You can look up because they're always putting new stuff up.
You can say, I want all correspondence that was written, on this date somewhere, in the United States during the Civil War. And I just want to see what those people were talking about. Was there any references to this battle, or is there any reference to this person? And shit, the people may have discussed what it is you're looking for in those letters. Because they wrote letters to each other and discussed shit in them.
Yeah, because it's not like you could just pick up the phone and call somebody back then.
That would help fill in a lot of gaps of certain things that happened in the South as it was fucking falling apart.
Mark says, I feel like a lot of 80s and early 90s mystery movies had the scene where the main character figures some important shit out with microfiche in a library. Yeah, there are a lot of scenes like that. Yeah. Like
microfiche was creepy, man.
It's still kind of creepy.
Yeah, it makes a good movie scene.
Yeah, it's actually like a lot creepier than just watching somebody do like a Google search or whatever, which is, not inherently creepy.
Right.
And I guess like the farther away we get from microfiche technology, like the creepier it will seem, because it's just like this really old, like anachronistic.
Yo, we have to go back to microfiche. Oh yeah. Holy shit. Hold on, let me put my cloak on. Knocking the dust off. Light a candle.
Get dressed up.
Light a candle. Okay, we're gonna go check out the microfiche.
Thank you, David June.
What's up, Dave?
Love y'all's.
Thank you.
We need to print his shirts actually.
Oh yeah,
maybe you should do that tomorrow.
Somebody was asking. Yeah, that's right. I never got the order. You got the order?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I told you about it.
She didn't tell me about it.
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'll print them.
Yeah.
I have the shirt set aside. I just got.
Yeah, we just got to print them real quick, and I got all the stuff to mail them, so we can just do it over the next couple days. Ben says that microfiche is very flammable. Yeah, that's why I kind of feel like they're just trying to digitize everything too, because that stuff is. It won't last forever, and two, it might catch fire. So All right. Is that all that we have to say about this particular episode?
It was a good episode.
Yeah, I actually forgot how good this one was.
It makes a good standalone watch. Kind of like, I'll probably put it above Amityville Horror in a way. A lot of these episodes are actually better than the original Amityville movie. When you go back and watch the Amityville movie, it's kind of thin by today's standards. These are actually kind of better. They're good watches. And did this happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
This seemed more like a straight-up ghost story than a lot of the other ones. But in a way, that's kind of, like, refreshing because I like that there was no demons involved. Yeah. There was no... Yeah. It wasn't, like, as hokey as some of the other ones, I guess. Like, I hate that a lot of them just went, like, in a whole demonic direction.
The people in general seemed credible.
Yeah, and they didn't seem...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they seemed pretty level-headed and pretty,
There wasn't flights of fancy in it or anything.
Right.
They weren't being attacked by Apep and ancient Egyptian gods, and scarab beetles weren't eating them, and
we keep bringing that up.
We need to that episode was those boys were trolling. They were fucking They trolled the shit out of fucking A Haunting.
I think they did.
Fighting
well, and probably
Egyptian
like
gods.
the producers of A Haunting were like, whatever, we don't care. We just need content.
We need content. Yeah.
People will watch it regardless. They don't give a shit how believable it is.
Yeah.
Well, because like I said, it started going crazy. It's like, it's like now it's witches, and now the house is surrounded by werewolves and like all this other kind of shit.
Oh, the house surrounded by werewolves was actually
I think that was Paranormal Witness.
Which Paranormal Witness started off really good, but then that one went south. That one went hokey.
Yeah, and actually for a time we kind of liked Paranormal Witness better because they had a tendency to actually show like the actual
evidence,
photographs, and they'd play you actual EVPs like from the thing. Where like A Haunting never does that.
No.
And Paranormal Witness did that, but then Paranormal Witness started getting silly too, like as it went on.
Attacked by werewolves.
Yeah, you remember that werewolf episode? Yeah. Holy shit! I was like, you were not attacked by werewolves. Like, and it wasn't just one werewolf either. It was like a whole bunch of them like surrounding the house. I was like, dude, that was a bear. Yeah, calm down.
Werewolves are sexy, man. There's a whole whole genre of werewolf porn.
Yeah, it's very popular.
Yeah. Like in World of Warcraft characters, these sexy girls like Asumi and shit, sneaking out at night, having sex with the werewolves out in the fucking forest and shit.
Well, shit, that was one of the whole,
and it's hot. It's hot.
Twilight.
Yeah.
That was like her and the vampire, but she also there was werewolves in that one too.
Yeah.
Jacob was a werewolf.
Yeah.
So it was like vampires versus werewolves. And she was kind of like, had the hots for the werewolf.
Yeah, and they're like fucking 7 feet tall, and they're jacked as fuck. They're like the werewolves from Wolfen. Big old red rockets and shit.
We never did do Wolfen, did we?
No, we need to do that one.
We need to do that. We need to review that movie.
I said Wolfen. The Wolfen. I was actually thinking of Howling. I said Wolfen, but they look like the dings out of the Howling.
We have done the Howling.
Yeah.
But I remember I wrote it down a long time ago, but I used to love Wolfen, man, and I haven't seen it in like such a long time. I used to see it on cable like when I was a kid all the time.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a movie that we should cover because I remember liking that quite a bit. All right, so yeah, The Awakening, season 4, pretty decent episode all around, especially if you like more ghost story ones and not like demonic kind of stuff, and nothing that's like too silly. This one didn't get like too silly, which I kind of appreciated. But yeah, so I guess we'll wrap it up for the evening so I can kind of get ready to crash down for the night.
Yeah.
So Wednesday night, our show is going to be... I'm actually kind of looking forward to this one. This was a recommendation by one of y'all. I can't remember who from quite a while back. And then I put it in the poll and it finally won. We are going to be talking about Billy Milligan, who is, they called him the campus rapist back in the 1970s. The fascinating thing about him was there's multiple personality disorder kind of thing involved. And he is actually the guy on whom the character from M. Night Shyamalan's Split is loosely based. So he was one of the first, he was, I think, as far as I know, like the only guy to use successfully my other personality did the crimes and I didn't remember it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's actually a 4-part Netflix documentary about him. I think it's called Monsters Inside, and I'm actually watching that. Like, so I watched the first 2 episodes last night, and so I might watch one tonight, and then I'll watch another one tomorrow night, because it's like it's actually like a really interesting story. Yeah, Billy Milligan, based on a true story. David June, good show, peeps. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Then said, still impressed at how jacked Tom got.
Oh yeah, man. Before I'm gonna shut the show down, man, I've been acting ass for a couple months. I was on trend. I was on trend for like 5 months.
Yeah.
And only took like a 2-week break in between 2 cycles. Because I was on trend, I thought I could do that. I've been off for about 3 weeks. I still act ass sometimes.
Yeah, you do.
So y'all have to forgive me if I could.
And then I tell him he's acting an ass, and then he acts like an even bigger ass because he doesn't believe me.
Yeah, I don't believe it
But then like later on, he's like, "Oh yeah, I am acting like." I was normal. Like, "I know."
Yeah, I seem normal, and then like, so I go crying to fucking Sophie. Man, she's doing this and that. And she goes, "No, you're crazy." And I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not."
Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah. So she says, "No, you kind of descended into madness sometimes."
See, I told you.
And I was like, "No." And then I started doing the numbers and going like, "Yeah. I'm on trend."
Don't you bitches be crazy me. Dudes be crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, dudes be crazy.
Yeah, you kind of have like these emotional fucking holograms. Or not holograms, emotional hallucinations.
Emotional hologram sounds like an indie band.
Yeah. But I'm off that shit now. I'm on MPP now. That's a good one. I'm going to get bigger.
You down with MPP?
I'm on MPP.
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah. Nandrolone.
Sorry,
it's a lot more mild.
Got a hole in my lip.
Doesn't have the same mental side effects. I'm gonna tell y'all, we got bodybuilders that listen, like Ian. You know, he's waiting to do his trans cycle. Do it, man. But it's a relationship killer. You better have, and it's known for that. You act a fucking ass on that shit, and you don't realize it. You seem normal to yourself. Everybody else, you seem real aggressive. You start picking on weaker guys. Like an animal, you're trying to force them out of the damn breeding population. Big jacked dudes who are aggressive, you love them. You can vibe with them, but anybody who's not. So you start acting bad.
Yeah.
Because you can. So you...
Yeah, you were saying some crazy shit this weekend.
Yeah.
You were saying some crazy shit.
Yeah. So I don't really reckon... The thing is you say crazy shit, you don't really feel it that much. It's
and I'm telling you, you're saying crazy shit, and then you just said crazier shit, and then you got mad at me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
You don't really take it seriously when you're saying it. It's just like shit talking. Because it's emotion. So, but I don't recommend trend.
This is why I drink.
Yeah. I'm not going to do a trend.
That's not the only reason.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that one again.
I've got lots of reasons to drink.
I'm not going to do that one again. I recommend more like NPP, nandrolone phenylpropionate. You look in that one and test. It's a lot easier on you. Doesn't make you fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because trend was not meant for human use, really. It was for cattle. But it's cheap and highly effective, and it works fast.
I mean,
you can work out like crazy. You can just fucking work out like crazy. You're strong as fuck, and you just grow. But it's mostly shape. It's not so much size. It's shape, and you just eats all the fat off you. It's beautiful. Great fat loss. That's really why I was using it, just to lose weight, lose fat. You know, I actually lost weight on it. I'm looking bigger, but I lost weight. I lost about 10 pounds. It doesn't look like it, but I did because it was all fat.
I'm just saying, don't.
Yeah, I ain't do that anymore.
Don't make me have to like dart you.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
I gained what I was going to gain. I gained what I could gain from that one. There are other ones that are safer and cheaper. Not cheaper, safer, more expensive, and take longer, but they're just more pleasant. They're a lot more pleasant. They're more for human use, you know. Trend was an experiment. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. or at least be by yourself.
Yeah.
And not have somebody else around like having to put up with your ass.
Actually, no. No. Most of my real crazy fucking thinking happened when I was by myself. And then I'd get around other people and it would start talking and it would kind of alleviate and go away. You know what I mean? Because you'll start thinking that everybody's talking about you. You know what I mean? People are plotting. You get paranoid.
Yeah, I remember that.
You get real paranoid.
Yeah, you were getting.
Yeah.
You were a loon.
Yeah, but then when you start talking to other people, you realize you're tripping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
So it doesn't really stick with you, but you get real flippant with people. You know, you're like, I don't want to get out of here. You're like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I know.
What you looking at? That kind of shit. You know what I mean? You looking at me? Oh, you want to fight?
You looking at me?
Yeah, yeah. I'm fucking driving a car and
you getting like taxi
see
driver.
a dude looking at me and like, what the fuck you looking at me for? You know, like
and he's like, bro, chill out.
He didn't know. He just looked away.
He's like, I was just looking over there at the McDonald's drive-through line. Chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is why I try to like just keep ahead when I'm driving. I don't want anybody thinking I'm looking at them.
Yeah, but you'll come off of it and you think you're all right still. But it seems to have taken me about 3 weeks to actually recover from that cycle. I'm still a little fucking crazy.
Yeah, you still have
not as bad. And I know I'm crazy though now. Before I didn't even know I was crazy.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Ben said, by the way, I saw Cocaine Bear. It is amazing. See it on the big screen if you can.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot about that. It sounds kind of fun. The bear gets wild on cocaine and starts racing around the park killing people to try and get more of the bags of coke smugglers dropped out of a plane based on a true story.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's at the theater.
I'd like to see that with a gorilla. Cocaine gorilla. Imagine if a fucking gorilla becomes
I'm imagining Asylum will probably do a knockoff of Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine gorilla.
Cocaine Bear versus Cocaine Gorilla versus
gorilla
Cocaine Alligator.
You got the fucking gorilla that's just, he's got a big old fucking plastic bag, he's just putting his whole face in it. Like that, you know, and he's looking at the girls and shit, going, oh, shit, man, look at the titties on it. Oh, yeah.
I do kind of want to see Cocaine Bear, though. Yeah. It looks super fun. But yeah. All right, so we will be back on Wednesday for the main show. As I said, it's going to be about Billy Milligan, the dissociative identity disorder rapist guy that they talked about on Netflix. So yeah, and hopefully I'll get a chance to watch the rest of I watched half of the series, but there's 2 episodes left, so I gotta watch one tonight and then one tomorrow night, so we'll see, so I can get caught up on that. But yeah, so thank you very much for dropping by and hanging out with us, talking about ghosts and whatnot. Remember to like and share and comment and all that other kind of stuff for the algorithm, and we will see you guys again on Wednesday. Good night.